In 1953, a woman in Akron, Ohio, stood at a kitchen counter holding everything her family needed for a week, without a single convenience product in sight. A pressure cooker, a hand-cranked food mill, a cast-iron skillet seasoned with 20 years of use, and a percolator that had never needed replacing. That same autumn, Swanson launched the television dinner at 98 cents a tray, and the most successful displacement campaign in American food history began. There is one idea running through every item in the countdown. The skill lives in the tool, not the package. You are going to hear that idea more than once before we are done. Hit that subscribe button, because what follows is about to change how you think about everything that used to live on your grandmother's counter. The convenience food industry did not force your grandmother out of her kitchen. It made her tools look old-fashioned, one product launch at a time. Let us count down the 25 lost kitchen inventions that industry quietly replaced. Number 25. The Rotary hand-cranked egg beater. The Echo brand model, introduced in 1946, lived in every American kitchen drawer. One hand held it, one hand cranked, and the gear-driven beaters folded air into eggs or cream in under a minute. One crank drives two interlocking gears, spinning the beaters in opposite directions, creating the same whipping action as a modern electric mixer. Hold, crank, beat, rinse. Today, a hand mixer costs $60 and wears out. Your grandmother's beater cost $1 and fit in a drawer. If the egg beater was about speed in the hand, the next invention was about satisfaction in the moment. Number 24. The lever-operated aluminum ice cube tray. Patented in 1949, this cast aluminum tray had a hinged release lever that cracked every cube loose in one clean pull. Refrigerators of the era had no built-in ice makers, and this tray was the only way to have cold drinks at home. Aluminum conducts cold efficiently, and the lever released every cube at once with a single satisfying crack. Pull once, done. When plastic twist trays and then built-in ice makers arrived, the aluminum tray vanished almost overnight. Today, a countertop ice maker costs $150. That was about cold. The next tool was about heat and sat directly on the meat. Number 23. The cast iron bacon press. This flat, heavyweight sat on top of bacon or a pressed sandwich in a cast iron skillet, ensuring full contact between meat and pan. Cast iron distributes heat through the press itself, cooking every strip flat and uniformly crisp with no curling. Lay the bacon in, set the press on top, cook. When non-stick pans arrived and made cast iron feel like extra effort, the press disappeared with it. Today, it sells as a specialty item for $40 at kitchen boutiques, which is what your grandmother paid for her whole skillet. If the press handled the morning, the next tool handled coffee, and the whole house heard it. Number 22. The Stovetop Percolator. Before drip machines, the Stovetop Percolator made every American cup. A tube at the centre used steam pressure to force hot water up over the grounds repeatedly, filling the kitchen with the deep smell of cycling coffee. Your grandmother set it on the burner, and it needed no filters, no pods, and no replacement parts for as long as she owned it. Mr. Coffee launched in 1972 with Joe DiMaggio as spokesman, and within a decade, the percolator was gone. A good percolator today costs $40 and still works exactly as it always did, from coffee on the burner to the tool that prepared the beans themselves. Number 21. The wall-mounted hand-cranked coffee grinder. Before Maxwell House and Folgers sold pre-ground cans, a hand grinder was mounted to the wall, and every morning a woman cranked fresh beans to order. Freshly ground coffee releases its aromatic oils only after the cell walls of the bean are broken, and those oils begin to fade within minutes. Drop the beans into the hopper, crank, collect. The transition to pre-ground supermarket coffee accelerated through the 1950s as national brands expanded their shelf presence. Today, a hand grinder costs $30 and every specialty roaster sells whole beans for exactly the reason your grandmother already knew. If the morning started with coffee, lunch often started with something the next tool prepared. Number 20. The countertop rotary nut grinder. This hand-cranked cylinder turned whole walnuts, pecans or hard cheese into fine, even crumbles with a few turns of the handle. Freshly ground nuts have not yet released the oils that begin oxidizing the moment the cell walls are broken, which is why a freshly ground walnut crumble tastes nothing like the one from a bag. Drop a handful in, crank 6 turns, collect. Today, pre-chopped nut packets and pre-shredded cheese have replaced the grinder entirely, and most people have never tasted the difference your grandmother's countertop tool made. From nuts to something that required considerably more arm strength. Number 19. The hand-cranked manual meat grinder. Your grandmother's meat grinder clamped to the countertop and turned a whole cut of chuck or pork shoulder into ground meat, fresh for that meal. She chose the fat ratio, the coarseness, and the cut, and she knew exactly what was in her meatloaf. The grinding plate came in multiple hole sizes, from coarse for chili to fine for meatballs. Feed the cut through, crank, collect. Supermarket pre-ground beef became dominant in the 1960s, blending trim cuts from multiple animals into a uniform paste. Number 18. The Foley food mill. It was standard in the American kitchen by the 1950s. It had a perforated metal plate at the base and a curved blade cranked by hand. You cooked your apples or tomatoes, dropped them in, cranked, and the mill pushed the flesh through while holding skins and seeds back. One pot of cooked apples cranked through in 3 minutes produced silkier apple sauce than any blender could. When affordable blenders arrived in the 1960s, the food mill was set aside even though it did the job more cleanly. The food mill worked after cooking. The next tool changed how the cooking happened. Number 17. The Stovetop double boiler. A double boiler is a smaller pot sitting inside a larger one that holds simmering water, cooking its contents gently through indirect heat. Every kitchen in the 1950s had one used for melting chocolate, making custard, or holding a cream sauce without the risk of scorching. The water below never exceeds the boiling point, so the food stays at a consistent warmth no direct flame can provide. Set the inner pot over simmering water and stir. Nothing burns. The microwave displaced this technique in the 1970s, but a microwave heats unevenly, and that is precisely why melting chocolate at home so often fails today. From gentle heat to where bread survived between the bakery and the table. Number 16. The wooden bread box. Every kitchen counter held a ventilated wooden bread box that kept a loaf at room temperature in controlled airflow. Your grandmother did not refrigerate her bread, and she was right. Refrigerator temperatures accelerate starch retrogradation in bread, making it go stale faster than room temperature storage does. The bread box kept the crust firm, and a loaf lasted 3 or 4 days. When plastic-wrapped factory loaves arrived, the box seemed unnecessary. A bread baker who uses one today discovers your grandmother was right all along. Here is something the industry has kept very quiet. Pause for a moment, because this is the idea that connects most of the countdown. Every tool on your grandmother's counter represented a skill her household owned outright. She could grind her coffee, mill her applesauce, render her lard, and bake her bread without purchasing anything beyond the raw ingredient. The skill lived in the tool and in her hands, and as long as she had both, She could not be sold a replacement. The solution was elegant and almost invisible. The industry did not destroy the tools. It repositioned them. Every advertisement for Swanson television dinners, for Bird's Eye frozen peas, for pre-ground Maxwell House carried the same quiet message. A woman who still used these old-fashioned things had not yet modernized. And the skill that made those tools necessary quietly moved to a factory floor, where it would be purchased back for the rest of a family's life. Number 15. The Stovetop Cast Iron Waffle Iron. Before the electric waffle maker, a hinged cast iron mould sat directly on the burner, and a woman flipped it halfway through to brown both sides. Direct contact between iron and flame produced a crust that electric warming plates cannot match. Cast iron holds heat intensely and releases it as radiant contact rather than the gentle press of heated plates. Preheat for 5 minutes, brush with fat, pour the batter close and flip once. The sound of cast iron on a hot burner travelled from every kitchen before the electric waffle maker arrived, from the morning waffle to the butter that went on top. Number 14. The Glass Butter Keeper. The butter bell was a 2-piece crock in which a cup-shaped lid held butter submerged in cold water, creating an airtight seal that kept it fresh at room temperature for weeks. The water seal prevented oxidation, which is what makes exposed room temperature butter go rancid. Press butter into the lid cup, invert it over the water-filled base, and refresh the water every few days. When refrigerating all dairy became standard through the 1950s, the butter bell was set aside. Today, one sells for $30, from the butter to what she cooked it in. Number 13. The Home Lard Rendering Pot. Your grandmother rendered her own lard. She saved pork fat back, cut it small, and melted it slowly until it clarified into a clean fat that hardened white and smooth when cooled. Freshly rendered lard has a higher smoke point than butter and makes flakier pie crusts than commercial shortening. By the 1950s, Crisco was dominant, and post-war health messaging positioned animal fat as dangerous and vegetable shortening as modern and safe. The science behind that campaign has since been substantially revised. The lard pot came off the counter. The Crisco can went up. If lard built flavour slowly, the next tool extracted it from spice instantly. Number 12. The Stone Mortar and Pestle. Before pre-ground spice packets, the mortar and pestle was used every day. A woman crushed whole peppercorns, dried chilies, or cumin seeds fresh, releasing their aromatic oils at the moment of use. Whole spices retain their volatile compounds inside intact cell walls. Grinding releases those compounds immediately, and they begin to fade within minutes of exposure to air. Grind a tablespoon of whole cumin. Use it immediately. The shift toward national pre-ground brands accelerated through the 1950s, and the mortar left the counters where it had been used every day. From the spice to the tool that prepared the vegetable going alongside it. Number 11. The hand-cranked green bean Frencher. This small device clamped to the countertop and sliced fresh green beans lengthwise into thin strips with a turn of the handle. French cut beans have more surface area than whole beans, meaning they cook faster and absorb flavours more deeply. Feed the bean through the guide slot, crank once, and it emerges in 4 even strips. Home canners ran bushels through this tool every August before Bird's Eye frozen whole green beans made it seem unnecessary. Here is the argument the industry made, and it is worth understanding exactly how it worked. Pause for a moment. Your grandmother's tools were fixed investments: a cast iron skillet, a food mill, a mortar, a bean Frencher, each bought once and used for a lifetime. The convenience products that displaced them were ongoing costs, purchased repeatedly every week for the rest of a family's life. A household that switched from home canned beans to bird's eye frozen beans did not pay less for their vegetables. They paid more reliably every year. The shift was not forced by regulation. It was achieved by making the tools feel embarrassing. And most of the tools in the rest of the countdown went exactly the same way. Number 10. The wire cake tester. Before the wooden toothpick became universal, a thin, flexible wire loop on a handle was the proper cake tester. A wire tester inserted into a cake and withdrawn clean confirmed doneness. Without leaving the channel, a thick toothpick drives through a tender crumb. The wire also gave tactile feedback. Faint resistance before moving cleanly told her the crumb was set. Insert to center, feel for resistance, withdraw clean. From the tool that tested the bake to the appliance that made it possible in far less time. Number 9. The Stovetop Pressure Cooker. National Presto introduced the home pressure cooker at the 1939 New York World's Fair, and by the early 1950s, it was the fastest tool in the American kitchen. Sealing water vapor inside raises the boiling point to around 250 degrees, cutting a pot roast from 3 hours to 45 minutes. When frozen food promised dinner in 25 minutes, many households chose the aluminum tray over the pressure cooker. Your grandmother's Stovetop Presto did the same job for $4 in 1952. From speed to preservation, the next tool was how your grandmother fed the family all winter. Number 8. The home canning kit. A ball jar, a jar lifter, a wide-mouth funnel and a water bath rack let a woman preserve a summer's harvest of tomatoes, peaches, pickles and green beans to last until the following spring. Bringing sealed jars to a rolling boil for the correct time destroys the microbes that cause spoilage and creates an airtight vacuum seal. Fill, wipe, lid, process in boiling water, listen for the ping. Mason jar manufacturing declined sharply in the 1950s and the 1960s as supermarket canned food expanded. Your grandmother's kit cost her one season's labour and fed the family all year. From the jars in the pantry to the pan she cooked from every single day. Number 7. The Well-Seasoned Cast Iron Skillet. Your grandmother did not buy a non-stick pan, she built one over years with every use. The seasoning on a cast iron skillet is a polymerized oil coating bonded to the iron through repeated heating, and a well-maintained surface improves with age rather than degrading. In 1954, French engineer Marc Gregoire applied Teflon to his wife Colette's cooking pans at her suggestion, and by 1956 had launched the Tefal company. A cast iron skillet lasts indefinitely. A Teflon pan degrades with every scratch, and most households have replaced theirs 3 or 4 times since. From the pan to what she stored beside the stove, the next tool held something the post-war nutrition industry spent decades attacking. Number 6. The stoneware fermentation crock. Before refrigeration made cold storage universal, a ceramic crock held cucumbers in salt brine or shredded cabbage fermenting slowly into sauerkraut. Salt draws water from the vegetable by osmosis, creating a brine in which bacteria naturally present on the vegetable surface, thrive and produce an acid environment that prevents spoilage. Pack tightly, submerge under the brine, weigh it down and wait 2 weeks. Refrigeration and commercial pickle jars displaced the fermentation crock through the 1950s, and with it went the fermented foods themselves, replaced by vinegar-brined commercial pickles preserved by acid rather than fermentation. If the crock worked by patience, the next technique worked by using warmth already in the kitchen. Number 5. The bread proofed on the pilot light. Before electric ovens replaced gas ranges through the 1950s and 1960s, a gas oven's continuous pilot light kept the interior at roughly 80 to 90 degrees, precisely where bread dough proofs most efficiently. Your grandmother put her covered dough bowl in the oven with the door slightly ajar, and by mid-afternoon, the dough had doubled without any intervention. Yeast is most active in that narrow, warm band. When modern gas ovens moved to electronic ignition, that free proof box disappeared entirely. From the oven that proofed the dough to the loaf that came home from the bakery. Number 4. The Yun sliced loaf and the bread knife. Through the 1950s, many families still bought bread unsliced from the local bakery or bread truck and cut it at home with a proper serrated knife. A freshly sliced loaf retains more moisture because the cut surface is exposed only at the moment of use. Factory sliced bread is cut warm and sealed immediately, trapping steam and accelerating mold growth that requires preservatives to control. Slice as you need it, keep the rest in the bread box. The bakery loaf your grandmother carried home stayed fresh for days without a single additive, from the bread to the pot that cooked everything else. Number 3. The cast iron Dutch oven as the all-day cooker. Before the crock pot arrived in 1971, your grandmother had her own slow cooker, the covered cast iron Dutch oven set over the lowest burner before she left for the morning. A bone-in chuck roast, root vegetables, a cup of stock, a tight lid. By dinner time, the collagen in the connective tissue had dissolved into gelatin, and the pot had become something no microwave could produce. Your grandmother's Dutch oven needed only the burner already burning. From the pot to what she fried in it and why that fat became the most unfairly maligned thing in the American kitchen. Number 2, the drippings crock beside the stove. Every kitchen in the 1950s had one, a ceramic crock beside the stove, collecting rendered fat from bacon, pork chops and beef. Your grandmother used it for frying eggs, for seasoning the cast iron, and the richest pie crusts she ever made. Crisco and the vegetable oil industry spent decades advertising animal fat as dangerous and hydrogenated shortening as the modern healthy substitute. The science behind that campaign has since been substantially revised. The drippings crock came off the counter, the Crisco can went up. And that brings us to number 1, the one that was never a gadget at all. Number 1. Cooking from scratch, not a tool, not a patent, not a product, a practice. The practice of buying whole food, applying skill, and producing meals from start to finish inside your own kitchen, using tools you already own and knowledge handed down from one pair of hands to the next. Your grandmother did not cook from scratch because she had no other option. She cooked from scratch because the skill lived in her kitchen, and as long as it did, her family did not depend on anyone else to feed them. Think back over every item in the countdown: the egg beater, the food mill, the fermentation crock, the cast iron skillet, the drippings crock, the pressure cooker, the canning jars. Each one was a fixed investment in a skill her household owned outright. Every technique those tools encoded was something the industry needed to extract from the household and sell back by the unit. The tools left the counters. The skills faded. The tools your grandmother used were not primitive. They were points of ownership. Each one said, "This family knows how to do this. No one sells us this back." That is what the industry quietly replaced. And every item in the countdown is evidence of what knowing how to cook once meant, before we were sold the idea that convenience was the same thing as progress. So here is the challenge. Pull the cast iron skillet out of the cabinet and re-season it this week. A thin coat of oil at 350 degrees for an hour. or dig out a pressure cooker and put a whole chicken in it with stock and an onion under pressure for 30 minutes. Either one will taste like the kitchen used to taste. I will tell you what happened when I found a Foley food mill at an estate sale for $2. I cooked a pot of windfall apples and cranked the whole batch through in 3 minutes, collecting 2 quarts of silky applesauce with no straining, no splashing, no peeling, and no oxidation. $2 and a turn of the handle. That was what your grandmother already knew. Now, I want to hear from you. Which wins, the cast iron skillet, comeback, or the pressure cooker, rescue? Tell me which tool you are bringing back this week, and tell me what your own grandmother made with it, because somewhere in that answer is the thing the industry spent decades hoping you would forget.